Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thriving Adoptees podcast, another episode. And have we got a treat for you, as usual? Sometimes, when we have two guests, I say we just have one guest, we have two guests, but this is going to be a one-off. So this is a young couple who are both adoptees, and it's David and Claire. David was on the podcast back, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. David, and he said, what if I brought my girlfriend on? She's also a Russian adoptee, and we can just have a chat about that. So welcome to the show, guys. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be fun.
Good. It's good to be back.
Good to be back. So we're still 3,000 miles away, or about 12 inches if we're looking at this. So David, well, let's ladies first. I'm an English.
That's right. Ladies first. We got
ladies first. Claire, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Claire Ives. I grew up in a small town named New Boston. It's kind of like it's not really known in our state. But I do have 3 other siblings that were all adopted from Russia, including me, myself. And we didn't, I don't know really where to start, but basically in my family, we kind of initiated that, we were adopted, and it was really cool to learn that. And whenever I asked my friends, or they asked me, basically, it's like, oh, where are you from? It's like, I'm from Russia. That's so cool. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's I know nothing about it, because I was in grade school when they asked, and I was adopted at 2 years old.
Yeah.
And all my siblings were adopted at a young age. So I have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and 1 sister. And the oldest is 28. And then I have a 25-year-old brother, and then I have a 24-year-old sister, and I'm 23. So basically they adopted my oldest brother when he was 3. And the backstory of it it's basically my mom, during her senior year of high school, she went to Russia, and she actually took the language in basically junior, and then she went to Russia to see how it is, the culture, and how people are over there. And so then she got married in 1990, and then she wanted to have kids. She wanted a big family because she was one of 6, and my dad was one of 6. And so they were like, well, we want a big family. So, and they had pregnancy issues. So they were like, why don't we adopt? And so my mom is like, oh, well, I've been to Russia. I loved how, all the culture and everything that I've learned from there. And she lived there. So she kind of she knew everything about it mostly. And so she was like, well, we'll do the process of how to do it. And so she went to a seminar and they had different countries that you could adopt from, there's China, Kenya, or other different countries. And then there was Russia. And she was like, oh, I'm I would really like to adopt a person from this, or a baby from this place. And so she went through the process, and she went to pick up my brother. And so that was the first time was definitely tough for them, because they didn't know what to expect with the adoption and how to really do it, because it was their first time. And so then they did that. And then a year later, they adopted my sister. And they was like, oh, we got the hang of this. We can totally do this, and they're cute babies. We'll just keep adopting until we get our number. And so then 3 years later, they adopted my brother and I. And then when they saw me, I was like, oh, she's a cute little girl. We're done. It's we found the perfect child. We're done. We don't need any more kids.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Just a quick question on that. Are you related? Are you biologically related?
We're not all. No, we're not biological. They're all from different families.
Yeah. So I'm the I'm almost twice your eldest brother's age. I'm 54, and I've got a little sister who's 2 years younger than me, but she's not biologically related. She's just from a different family.
Yeah.
So David, can you just give? You're a little bit. I think you're a little bit older than Claire, are you?
Yeah, I'm 27.
27.
3, so 4 years.
So 4 years apart. Yes.
Yeah. And you were adopted from Russia as well. So if people want to check out
Yes.
David's story, go back into the back catalogue of the Thriving.
Yeah, it was end of July, I think we did.
End of July that it went live. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I'll put a link in actually in the show notes, so if people can because there's been lots of episodes. We have a lot of people from the States that want to come on this show. British people, I don't know whether it's all because we've got a stiff upper lip or we're all backward.
Well, I'd like to thank you actually. Ever since you posted our interview together, I had a lot of other adoptees actually reach out to me because of it. So a lot of people are listening to it and they're inspired. So
they're inspired.
Yeah.
Well, that's because of the guests. That's got nothing to do with me.
Modest. I like it.
I was just recorded another podcast just before I came on, and this lady, I said something about your thoughts and your wisdom, and she said, and she's American. She said, "Well, I will give you my thoughts. I don't know about the wisdom." And I said to her, "How's the modesty going?" And she said, "I've just given you the truth." It is. We're all very modest, aren't we? Here in the Western world, unless we're blowing our own trumpet. So I'm really good at tanning. I'm quite good at swimming, and I like to think that I'm good at talking. But yeah, so. Inspiring, that's what we want to do really with the podcast. The podcast is about inspiring and empowering, and one of the best things that I really loved about what you said when you came on the podcast, David, was the fact that you just wanted to prove them wrong. I think that was how I sum it up in my words. I don't know how you said it.
It was basically saying just because you're adopted, you shouldn't have a stigma attached to you. And I wanted to basically prove everyone that I'm just the same as anyone else who wasn't adopted. And I'll be honest, it feels good to prove people wrong that, hey, I can do it too, like you're not any different, and just because where we're from doesn't define who we are. The way we grow up doesn't define who we are. Just because you're adopted or you're not adopted, you can still be friends. And I think I said something along the lines at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we just have to learn how to figure it out together. And it's better to do it together rather than alone. Hence why I deal with her all the time.
Hey.
But I mean, we're figuring it out together too, just like everyone else. So
yeah. This is the first lovers edition of the Thriving Adoptees podcast.
Hey, we should start a series.
Yeah, the lovers edition. So
love it. That's a great title.
So we'll call it that. The ego and curiosity part of my of me wants to know what people are saying about the podcast, because I don't get much feedback. I did get an email yesterday from somebody that heard me on another podcast, not on my own. So what are they saying about the podcast? Just briefly, and then we'll move on to the proper topic.
Yeah. So far, a lot of them, I've had a couple adoptees. They're all from Russia, of course, because they were interested in mine.
Yeah.
And they reached out and they said that they loved hearing it, that I was actually pretty good. They said that the topics we covered were very informative, and it made them think like kind of deep about all these topics of who they are as people. And I mean, you can even ask her, she listened to mine and you could get her thoughts on it. So, but yeah, they've been all positive so far, nothing bad. No one reached out and said, terrible, the British, none of that.
Sorry?
I said no one ever said anything negative and we don't like them or anything like that.
Oh, about the British, okay.
Positive feedback.
Cool. So what did you think of it, Clara? What did you think of David's episode?
It was pretty interesting to learn a little bit more, because it's like when I first met him, he was like, he sat me down, like, what's your story?
It's quite serious. I like that.
Oh yeah. I was like, it was basically in like a wooden, like it was like in a college university chair, And like, you're gonna sit down and tell me your story. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Can I get out? Is there an exit anywhere? But it was pretty interesting because he's been inspired and like, he's always loved Russia so much. And my family is a little bit, has their own opinions about it. And it was just great to hear that, from a different perspective in some ways. So I really liked it a lot.
Cool. The show is all about perspectives and bringing different perspectives in the hope that it shifts our own perspectives, because that's what I say this a lot, but I don't think it can be said enough. The world thinks that strategies change the world, right? And it's not. The strategies don't change the world. They don't change the world unless they're implemented or done with a lot of oomph behind them. But, a change in perspective. A change in perspective, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Enough. I'm on with it. So that's what it's all about, the perspective, change of perspective. So the Lovers Edition. I feel like, do you guys know who Barry White is?
No.
Okay. I think his nickname was the Walrus of Love. He had this voice, like a soul singer. He's not, unfortunately, no longer with us now, but he sings a lot of songs about love, and is so he's got that deep velvet. We were talking about Guinness before we started. Yeah, he sounds like he's had a lot of Guinness. So you need to check him out. Just put Barry White singer into YouTube and or Spotify. It's music. It's music to make love to. Okay. So this is.
I'll make note of that.
We'll make a note of that. Yeah. This, I haven't met any Russian people. Right. I've seen.
So I'm really careful of calling myself Russian.
Yeah.
I identify myself as Russian American just because I believe where you're from first is. So there's a big argument, and it's a personal thing for me. I get ticked off when people claim they're like a certain nationality when they're not. I mean, I know that's wrong in some ways because maybe they feel more, but like, you have people that are like, oh yeah, I'm Italian. It's like, oh really? Are you from Italy? No. Oh, okay. Well, are your parents from Italy? No. Do you follow any of the cultures or traditions or anything? Oh, no. No, my great-great-grandfather's from Italy. I'm like, oh, so you're basically about American as you can be, Yeah. But, I just identify myself personally as Russian American. From Russia, but raised in America. And that's just the way it is. I mean, culturally, I have the Russian holidays on my calendar, so I know when they are. And in the past, on those days, I'd make Russian food, and I'd communicate with my Russian relatives on those days, and talk to my birth family when I can. But it's usually only around holiday times. But that's just me personally. But maybe Claire could. What do you think?
That was a lot to take in.
I mean, would you say you identify as Russian or?
No, I'd say Russian American. Like, yeah, basically what you said, I totally agree that I was from Russia, but America is where I grew up and how I was raised. And basically when I was a child, they kind of took away the Russia part of my life, because they were just like, well, you've been raised, you're adopted from an American family, so you're gonna be raised as American. And it's like, yeah, there was some days where I'd ask about my where I was from and more on that, but it was basically all about the American culture and all the holidays. We didn't really do anything with Russia.
So,
go ahead.
So this can be quite unsettling, is what I understand.
Yeah, because I was always kind of curious about the backstory of my life and all my siblings, because we're all from Russia. So I thought there would be some kind of thing that my parents would do to celebrate all of us that were adopted. And yeah, we'd have our gotcha days. That's basically the day that they got us. So we'd celebrate, we'd have a nice meal that day. But other than that, it was nothing more. It was
Yeah, I can relate to that too. My parents didn't really celebrate any Russian holidays or, I mean, we couldn't even cook Russian food because I think maybe I mentioned this the last interview, but my dad's very like American in his food ways. So we had a lot of strict food rules in the house, and Russian food wasn't one of them. He wasn't a cabbage lover or beets or sour cream or dill or
no borscht. No
borscht. Niet the borscht. Niet. No.
So this kind of like this curiosity, feeling a bit unsettled.
Yeah, because I felt like I was placed most of my like life when I was a child and growing into being an adult. Because it was just, I was always curious a little bit like about, and I've always wanted to go back. None of my siblings didn't ever want to go back, because basically the aspect of how they take Russia is basically they were like just basically let go, and they were just, they were in an orphanage. So it's like, well, they don't care about me. And so they don't really want to care about Russia. And there's one of my brothers that was 25. He's the one that has been so passionate about it, because he is kind of mentally challenged in some ways, but he's been so curious about where he's from, like, why is he the way he is and stuff like that. And he's always just like, I want to, like, why am I like this? Why am I like that? Why like this and all that. And he just has wanted to find his family for so long, but I didn't know that there was resources until I met David.
Yeah.
So I looked up like some kind of resources, but there was basically, as he might have told in the last podcast, there was nothing before he like established the Russian Adoptees nonprofit. And so he built that. And so then that kind of got my curiosity. It's like, okay, well, there's someone that really cares about it. And so then I can get into that and I can find the resources that I need, and then that he can find as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, a tremendous achievement of you. I take my bowler hat off to you, young man.
Thank you.
Your achievement.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I didn't really plan any of it. That's the best part. It was just spontaneous. It was, like I said, it all started just meeting with a few of those girls in college who were all adopted from Russia, sitting around a table with me. And it started with a simple Facebook group called Russian Adoptees. And then it grew to be the largest group in the world for people adopted from Russia. And then we made a nonprofit out of it. And our message is simple. We advocate for Russian adoptees. That's it, plain and simple. Whatever it is, it's a support group, it's a advocacy group, and it's and over
there for you when you need.
Yeah, and it's really, and it's nice to see that what you did really helps people. Adoptees have, I think I told you this before, but it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of people who've adopted from Russia that have issues. I mean, I'll even admit I have issues. Everyone has issues. And the way we deal with them is, it can be challenging when you feel alone. And a lot of people have connected with other adoptees and can talk about their problems that they had at the orphanage and say, it's okay. And basically our response is, it's okay if you feel this way, or you don't feel normal, or you feel like you are different. And it's like, well, we all do too. So
they come together.
But it's nice because we can get together, we can talk about it. And, it's just nice to know that what we're trying to do and the message we're trying to send is meaningful. That's really the whole thing. And people that think that what we're doing is wrong, I really question them, but I think it's.
Sorry, has anybody said what you're doing is wrong?
Yeah, actually one of her siblings, but that's a different story because he's very anti-Russia. So he thinks that it's all like, basically, and I don't want to speak for her.
No, you don't need to share this stuff if you don't want to, guys. But, like, how can helping other people?
Well, I think it's just, I think that the bottom, sorry.
It's not really about helping other people that is negative, that like my brother will talk about, but it's just basically he feels that he was abandoned and basically come to America. It's like he was like, it was a whole new country for him, and to like adapt to that. And so to learn about Russia, he was just like, nope, I want to forget about it, because basically in my mentality, they forgot about me, so why should I care about them? And he'll just be so negative about it, and because it's like he's very pessimistic. And
okay.
sad because it's like, you know, and some like with all his like people and like all the people that he's known, like, and that he basically grew from his Facebook page. It's like they all get together to talk about their stories, and to have one negative thing is kind of difficult to like hear in some ways.
Yeah.
It's only it's supposed to have a positive impact.
Right. And all I was trying to say was I just wish he saw the positive outlook that he could potentially have from it, and the experience. Maybe, I mean, if he found his family, maybe it would make him feel better or something. I don't know.
It answers all the questions that have been unanswered for so long.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's some like questions that I still have, but it's just like sometimes there could be an answer, there might not be. But it's at least if there's other people that are like me, it's great to get together and talk about it, because then they might have an answer that you never even thought of.
Yeah. So I can kind of relate to it, you know, from just my own experience with, you know, like I didn't, so I was adopted at 5 weeks old. I didn't give my birth parents any thought at all, really, you know, and until I hit 40, and I had a kind of like some intense anger popped up towards my birth mother, and you know, I felt a little bit like your brother for a very short period of time, like seconds, but it was really intense, very intense pain. But it was never for me about. It was never for me really about my biological dad. I was never really interested in him at all. And then when I got the adoption file, I found out that she'd been going out with him for 5 weeks. No, not 5 weeks. She'd gone out for 5 months. She got pregnant, and he said he didn't want to have anything to do with her. And I thought, well, I don't really want to have anything to do with him. I thought, well, maybe I give it a go. So I think I kind of tracked him down and sent him a letter. But I never heard back. So I thought, well, it was never about him. But so, you know, I think we can all feel, you know, I think sometimes we're curious, we're looking for answers, we're thinking that the answers are going to lead us to peace. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, you know, but whilst we're kind of, whilst we're sure that answers are going to lead to peace, then we're going to keep looking. When we're like, so I'm quite a persistent guy. So like a dog.
I agree, 100%.
I'm like a dog with a bone, right? So I keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I remember we talked about that the last meeting. I was saying how you have to go into it being very careful, and you don't know what to expect. Remember the known knowns. I'm not going to say it again, but you know what I'm talking about. But you know, you go into it just thinking, you know, I'm going to get what I'm going to get out of this. It might not be the best thing. It might be negative. And you need to prepare yourself before you start a journey like that. So yeah, exactly. Have no expectations going into it. Exactly. Because you could find out terrible things, and then it could hurt you. You could feel bad. And you just need to prepare yourself before you make that decision. You know, I honestly, and this is the 100% truth, is I didn't really prepare myself when I did it. Like I said, I just did it one day because I was kind of bored. And I didn't think twice about any of the, the emotions behind it that I go through or any of that. I just, one day, like I said in the last podcast, I had a student of mine that asked me about my Russian family. And I said, I actually don't really know anything about it. And I went home and just started Googling how to find a family in Russia, birth parent searches.
I did that too.
But anyway, yeah.
So, how is it? How is it different dating a fellow adoptee towards rather than a non-adoptee?
I'll let Claire start.
Well, it was pretty interesting because it's like I didn't know basically from the start until he told me basically, well, what's a fun fact about you? And I was like, oh, I'm Russian. And then he was like, oh, I am too. And I'm like, oh, that's really neat. You know, it's really interesting to find someone else that was just kind of like me that might have the same questions that I have that he now answered.
Yeah. And was that the first time that you met, or was that?
Yeah.
Yep. So as soon as I found out that she was adopted from Russia, I'm like, oh geez, you know, this is already going to be like a lot of conversations are going to happen. And that's why, you know, first time she came over here and I got to see her and I sat her down. I'm like, all right, what's your story? Go.
Wow. The strangest thing, I think the first fellow adoptee that I met, it was at a birthday party, and she was going out with the guy. The guy was a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I fancied her, but unfortunately she was going out with this guy, and then she said, and then I don't know how we got onto the subject of being adopted, because it's not something that I talk about really. I talk about now because I'm doing that with the podcast, but it's not something that really comes up. But I felt, it was exciting. I remember, I smoked in those days, and I was outside chatting to her, having a drink and a smoke and stuff. And it's like, I didn't want to join the rest of the party. Sorry, David.
Oh, I just said English people.
Oh, English people, yeah. I didn't want to go back into the party.
Don't worry, I like English people, so it's okay.
I like American people.
Good.
Well, I like some American people. I don't like other ones. I like some English people, but I actually have never met. I've met you as a Russian. You guys as Russian Americans. I have not actually. Have I actually spoken to a Russian person? I don't think I have. I've seen a lot of them on holiday.
Yeah.
And in a ski resort, and I don't know. They didn't seem to be having a very good time. I don't know.
So it's an old thing in the Russian culture is if you're not a friend or family, they don't smile at you, and it's true, they don't. They won't be the first people to start a conversation. From my experience, I mean, some are different once they, as we say, get Americanized over here, they start to loosen up a little bit. But definitely in Russia, you look at someone and smile at them, they'll give you a glare and be like, what's your problem? Like, who are you? Yeah.
I'm trying to think whether, because this was quite a long time ago, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they like, we were in the ski hire shop, and they seem to be, they're not the best places in the world. That you've got all your gear on, it's too hot, it's stuffy. You just want them to give you the boots and get out of there and get on the slope. It's not the best place in the world, but just like in the bars as well, even amongst themselves, it wasn't as if it wasn't that they were blanking me. They just seemed to be not having a particularly good time. I don't know whether that was just the ski resort or, but Russian, they've with all the history has been tough. Russian history is pretty tough if you look back on it, all the czars, the revolution, all the kind of like the Second World War.
The people's gone through a lot over there. Absolutely.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that series Chernobyl? Have you seen that?
Yeah. Oh yes, I have. Yes.
And the kind of the misinformation of that era.
They lied to the entire world for months until they finally had to admit it. Yeah.
But so they've had it tough. They've had a tough time. But what was the difference between, Claire? What's the difference between like dating an adoptee that kind of like understands, like because we think slightly differently to other people. We're a little like some of us, like me, a bit more sensitive kind of soul.
I'm sensitive too, but he is a talker, as you can understand. and see, basically. He likes to talk a lot, and I'm very quiet and shy. So to meet a person that wants to talk and ask you a lot of questions, it's kind of like abrupt for me anyway, because I'm just usually the person in the corner just watching everyone else. And like, if I know someone, I'll go up to them and say hello and start a conversation. But he's the one that will start the conversation. And I like that because it's like, I don't really know where to start or where just like what to say, basically. And so it's really good to have a person that is communicative and likes to talk and will always be there anytime you need him. And basically what I've understood that he's a very caring person. I'm a caring person, but over caring in some ways. But he's really good and I like him. So
yeah,
it's been interesting though. But versus him and versus a non-Russian or adoptee significant other, they are basically more clingy is what I've experienced. And he is like, he will basically from the start, it's like, you get to do your own thing. And I haven't like done that. It's like, I don't ever get to have a long time. Like when I've had a non-Russian, it's like, they're always want to like, they'll text you like 100 times a day and he'll just text me like, when he wants to, and so it's like, he'll give me my space if I need it. But with others, it's like, nope, I want to like be right there, right next to you and be every moment. So, I'm like, okay, I need my space, back up.
I asked a completely misleading question, didn't I? I mean, this is, I'm just putting
I'm just going off.
I'm just putting stuff on.
I think he wanted to know the difference of dating someone adopted versus non.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. So he's more caring and other people are just, I don't know. He does like to talk about Russia a lot. And that's what I like because when I was a kid, I didn't really know much or what to ask. So when I got to meet him, it's like I had some questions and he answered them, or basically with the group, it's like I got to meet some of adoptees that he's known. And with his nonprofit, I got to see those people too. And it was really interesting.
That's great.
So
so I asked David this question then. That we're recording, listeners, we're recording. They're like a couple of teenagers. They've told us they're in the 20s. It's really cute. It's really cute. They're just like, so I'm being like a patronizing old man here. Anyway, I'll just move on, shall I? They're just a great couple, as you can probably tell from what they're saying. Anyway, I'll just move on. This isn't British to say things. Right. So I asked, let's talk serious stuff then. Thriving adoptees. So when you hear this phrase, thriving adoptees, what does that mean to you?
Basically, you come from a country that like you've been adopted, like you just basically, if you're young, like when you got adopted, you don't know anything about it. And so when you come to a new country, you understand how they work and how they do things. And so when you grow up, you kind of are like, he said that you're not like different from others, but you kind of are in some aspects because you're from a different country. So basically the mentality of like where you're from and where other people are from, like you, like from biological, people, basically they know who their mothers and fathers are. And it's like, I got to find mine from, him. And it was pretty interesting, but I think it's like you come from a weird country and you come to a new one. And if you do, like you become kind of more successful than others in some ways, because you have you get a little bit more out of it. Like when I was a little, it's like I had a speech impediment. So it's like I had to learn that, but it's like I was older than other people. It's like I was always a year or two older. And it was kind of different because I was like, well, why is there like a person in my class that's like 2 years younger than me? But I feel like that in his like knowledge and the people that he's known, they've been successful. And it's like, I am trying my best. But all in all, it's like you learn from other people. And if they're like you learn a lot. And it's pretty neat. I don't know how else to say, but so
have you, it sounds like you're I'm using my word here rather than yours, yeah. So it sounds to me like it sounds to me that you're more grounded than you were before.
Yeah.
And so what would you, apart from date my boyfriend and feel more grounded, right? which isn't an option. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
not an option. So
Yeah.
what would you say to listeners out there who are feeling their grounding is a bit shaky, they're a little bit curious, or they're not so sure of their roots, they don't feel quite as rock solid, they were like you, like a couple of years ago. What would you say to them?
Basically, you should find people that are like you, or if there's now resources because of him, because when you're alone, or you like don't have like everyone else is biological and you're the one adoptee, it's very hard, because it's like no one can understand your background or where you're from, or like why you are like who you are. And so when you find someone, it's enlightening, because it's like they've been where you are. Like we've all had our lowest, and we've all had like, our great moments and not so great. But to have someone that is just like you and have the resources, you need to just talk to someone that's just like you if you can.
Yeah.
It's better to talk about it than hold it all in.
Okay. What do you mean by enlightening?
It's basically it's just inspiring, and it's just great to hear other stories, because then it's like, someone, it's like from your same orphanage, basically. I haven't met one yet, because I'm kind of more west and
East. You're east.
Yeah, I'm east and the south. Think about you. But I think it's inspiring just to hear other people, because they'll understand what you're going through, and maybe they've had just the same story, kind of like in a different perspective.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really cool just to hear other stories, because it tells their story, and then you can tell like your story, and you can bond over that.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of kind of like coaching, and done a lot of like spiritual kind of work, spiritual consciousness work. I've done a little bit of therapy. It didn't really, it was significant. It helped me on, but not for the reason the lady thought it was, I don't think. Anyway, so have you guys done any, I mean, if you'd rather not answer this question, then like, just don't answer.
I've talked about this previously in the podcast, that I've seen some therapists here and there, and they've always obsessed about adoption.
Yeah, I've heard a
Mine
story.
have. Yeah.
When because I feel like, well, he said like there's no normal people out there really. So I've gone to therapists, and I'd talk about that I was adopted, and I was adopted from Russia, and like I don't really know much about it or why I am who I am, and they just put it aside. But with him, it's like they all like were just like so like
put it aside.
Yeah, because they were like they're basically more on the mental side more than like the background, because it's like, well, where are you now? Not back then, because that's your past. You got to look forward, is how they saw it.
Okay.
And I just kind of felt more left alone, because it was just like no one could understand me. So I went a little bit down. But then knowing someone and their story and their background, and then they went back to Russia, it was kind of really inspiring. And I'm like, okay, they've gone through the path. Now I want to go through it too.
Okay.
So
I mean, it sounds to me that Meaty, David, and the rest of the people, and that has been far more beneficial for you guys than therapy. Is that right?
in high school, no, but now, yes.
Oh, okay.
So, because I'm still going to see a therapist, because it's just great to talk about it and to be biased about it, like not to be towards one person or another. I like that, because it's like, they won't favor someone more than me. They'll listen to me, and they'll like, support me in any way that I like.
That's good.
It's been helping. So, because it's like, if I talk about him to him, it's like, I feel like that I'm just like, it's negative, and it shouldn't be like that. So if I talk to someone else about him, then it feels a little bit better, because I'm not really hurting him in some ways. It's
so you're saying that if people are struggling, then kind of find your own way and try different things. You can do the therapy and the group work and have the conversations. And for you, that's what about you, David? What would you say on that?
Well, I mean, I've my experience with a lot of therapists, like I said to you before, was they've kind of obsessed over my adoption and thought that, what I was going through, whether it was anxiety or depression or anything, it was because of where you're from and your upbringing, oh, you were in an orphanage. Oh, let's spend a whole session on that. And it's like, okay, well, I don't even know much about like the orphanage I was from. I mean, I told you I've been back and I visited, and the staff were great, and it was one of the better orphanages in Russia. But my belief is that I think a combination of therapy, if you decide if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Everyone can do what they want. But definitely, I think the sense of community with meeting all the Russian adoptees I've met over the last 10 years have just been amazing. I've been fortunate, I served on the board of directors down in, we go to Washington, D.C. and advocate for policies. And then, I got to meet so many cool people along the way, and just meeting adoptees. I mean, we even hosted another fellow Russian adoptee last week over here and had dinner with her. And she was from my orphanage, which was even better.
Yeah.
So we all get to sit around a table, all from Russia, and talk about it. And she brought her photo album of baby pictures and pictures of Russia. And, people, we are very proud of where we're from. I mean, at least that's me personally. I mean, some others, aren't. Yeah. I mean, some of her siblings don't care for it much, but I'm very proud of it.
Because they don't understand in some ways, because it's like they don't know. They didn't know the resources, or they didn't know that there was other people just like them. So they just are just putting it aside.
Right. There are some people that feel like they're abandoned, and they feel like there's no one else out there to help or to listen to, who will listen to them.
Yeah.
So I can understand why some people might be more negative toward it, but the message I'm trying to get across is that, because of the resources we have now and that sense of community and belonging, and I mean, even just chatting with you, I mean, it's nice to know there's people out there that understand what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And, I mean, the message that I've said is adoptees are just like people, like anyone else. And we shouldn't have a stigma attached to the name. We should be thriving. Marketing. Boom.
Brilliant. I'm not quite, I had a couple of questions. On this.
As blue as mine.
Yeah. I'm not sure where to go next. I'll go with one. Did I mention this book, Power versus Force? Did I mention that book to you last time we spoke? Power versus Force.
I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay. It's a Power versus Force by a guy called David Hawkins, Professor David Hawkins, and he's developed unfortunately he's died now. He developed a thing called a scale of human consciousness. So it goes from 0, which is dead, to 1,000, which is like the great religious avatars, and Jesus and Buddha and people like that. And below 200 is kind of life detracting, and above 200 is life affirming. So unconditional love, right, goes like 350 or something like that. And anger is about 50 or 80, I think. Shame is 20. And it's a way of looking at where we are, and we'll go up and down. We'll go up and down this right. But for me, that's what's happening. That's what life is. It's this movement up and down this scale of consciousness, right? But some people get a bit stuck in it, Yeah. So if you think of shame, like like really bad, not good enough, abandoned, worthless piece of trash thrown away, so you kind of like you can it wasn't obviously he didn't create it for adoptees, but you can see where you can see how things are going. So our level of consciousness is going kind of up and down all the time.
Yeah.
And that is that's the difference that, in my opinion, makes the difference. Because otherwise, I mean, because I know you're into data and IT stuff, aren't you?
IT, yeah. Yeah, you told me last time I was the like nicest IT guy you've met.
Yeah. I'm glad you remembered that, friend.
Yeah.
His memory's good, mine's not.
Sorry?
His memory's great, mine's not. So
All right, yeah.
remember every word, and I'll just remember some.
What work do you do? Are you still in college, Claire? Are you working?
So I was in childcare, but now I'm in like a paper management kind of office. So I basically look through papers that like are getting scanned. And
Okay.
so clients come to us and we'll like scan their papers and we'll give it back to them.
Okay, cool. So like I was thinking about the IT. The reason I bring up the IT side, I'm thinking left brain. You know what I mean by left brain? The logical side, the scientific side. Yeah. So I asked the lady that was with the podcast, just did a podcast before yours, about this. So my question is, how can a fixed event in the past, like adoption, cause a variable experience, right? So your life, your mood goes up and down.
Yes.
I'm presuming that you're like, welcome to the human race. Our mood goes up and down, right? So our mood is variable, and I'm using mood and level of consciousness interchangeable. With the scale thing, I'm using that kind of so I'm not being patronizing here. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm being clear. Yeah.
Right.
So our mood has been up and down, a variable, but we've had one fixed event, which was being relinquished by our birth mothers, being adopted.
Right. Well, yeah, and
how can a fixed event cannot cause a variable experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've never let being adopted myself really affect anything in my life at all. I honestly, like I said, I told you, I was adopted young, just like she was, but I've never blamed being adopted for problems or blamed it on anyone, really. It's not like I, acted out in school and got, suspended because I got in a fight and said, oh, it's because I'm adopted and I was an orphan, so I'm angry. I'm not gonna, that's not me. And I've never, I'm probably the last person who would give you a good answer on that one, because I really don't blame being adopted on anything, really. The only thing I blame being adopted is just what my birth mom did. And yeah, there's some resentment because of that. But I mean, everyone has a reason and there's a story behind it all. And, not having medical history, that wasn't cool, but that sucked. Yeah. But besides that, I mean, why some people think, that actions in the future are caused by them being adopted. I mean, maybe if they're older, I could understand that, because they remember being in an orphanage. They remember losing their family. They remember being taken away from them. Yeah. But I was adopted as a baby, and she was too. Yeah. So I don't have that resentment, really. Yeah. I don't.
Neither do I.
No.
But I do have a different, I can't really speak for my siblings, but it's the opposite. So he is he won't blame Russia for the things that have happened to him, but my siblings are strongly blaming it, and they will basically say, well, Russia made me become this and that and that and that, and it's just no, it didn't. You became who you are for how you were raised. And basically both my brothers are very pessimistic about it, and they're very negative about it. And so they will blame it all the time, because it's they're stuck in that, I don't know if it's shame moment, or just they're so down because no one understands what they're going through, because they haven't found the people. So they've just been so stuck. So they don't know how to go up in the to be positive. So they're just, and I don't really know how it's I'm not like that, but my siblings, I don't know how to get them out of that, because it's like they know that there are resources, but they won't find the help. Like I had a family dinner and I invited David over, and my brother that was so passionate about it, he was like, oh no, I don't want to find them. But then the next day he like talked to my mom for an hour. It's like, well, why am I this? Why am I that? Well, like, why am I doing this? Well, who am I? Like, who am I really? Like, and it's like, well, why didn't you ask the guy that like literally created a group and a community about like Russian Adoptees and where you like what like from? And it's like, it's like, but he's the one that he won't ask. You need to kind of bring up the conversation to have him ask the questions, because he's not the one that will be the center of attention, but he will become the center of attention if you start a topic like adoption.
Yeah.
But if there's no topic, he's just quiet about it.
Okay. You heard the phrase you can heard the phrase you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere down the line,
Probably not.
But it's just hard because it's like, I found someone that has built a community, and it's like, all my siblings like aren't really curious, but I'm curious about it, and I'll bring it up to them once in like now again. But it's like sometimes they'll like, well, no, it's like, it's like not that, or it's like not true. Like, he didn't really find like your family, it's just a fake thing. And it's like, no, like, it's like, you just got to ask. I know it's kind of hard and I shouldn't be talking about it, but it's just hard because they're just so stuck in the moment. And basically how to get out of it is you've got to start the conversation. That's how I see it.
Cool. So what are your plans for the community? I'm not going to ask you about your plans as a couple. Well, I could do, couldn't I? So what are your plans as a couple? How long have you been together?
We've been together for 1 year and 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months.
That was pretty spot on. Honestly, I was going to go with about 1 year, but
Yes, yeah, I remember the years and the months like that we first met, but he'll remember it's like what I said yesterday. I won't.
No, I mean, in terms of I'll start with the community. I mean, right now we're reorganizing like the leadership and staff and trying to kind of start fresh. We had basically a lot of the members, they just all stopped kind of working. Yeah, so we had to basically find new people. So right now I'm in the phase of finding new people again, but I want to start getting it going again. It was starting to slow down at one point, and now I want to pick it back up again. So we're in the process of just restaffing, finding new people. And that's kind of where we're at with there. In terms of us,
you can go ahead with that one.
Well, I'd say in the next year or so, I'm thinking about moving to a bigger house. So maybe I'll keep her, maybe I won't.
Wow.
We'll see how it goes. But no, our plans are probably, we're thinking about moving and staying together. And we got a cat now, and she's awesome. It's a purebred Bengal. My mom actually found it because I think I told you she's a veterinarian. So we had a good connection getting an animal. So but
and you learn a lot more about a person when you get an animal, because you see how they will like do things with the animal and like, like play with it or go away from it and stuff like that. So it's like I've seen that he's very nice, and he's very I don't know if it's not considerate, it's more than considerate. He loves the cat, and he's a cat lover, I'm a dog lover. So it's kind of, different, but it's like I don't hate cats, I love cats, but I like dogs because it's like, you get to do more with them while cats just sleep all day rather than dogs. You got to play with them, you got to take them outside.
Hey, the cat last night was watching Star Wars with me, sleeping on the couch with me. That was great.
So I'm just going to give a shout out to anybody that's listening to the podcast while they're walking the dogs. We're dog people. We're also pig people. We have 2 pig pet pigs.
Oh, I like pigs. I like baby pigs. Like piglets, they're cute.
She likes bacon.
Hey, don't think about it that way. Okay.
Hey, what's the question I've not asked?
What?
What's the question I've not asked?
I don't think. Okay,
cool. I don't know. It just popped into my head. So thank you guys. Is there anything that you'd like to finish up with?
Well, I guess my message would be, if you're listening and you're adopted, know that you're not alone. There's always people out there. There's more resources now than ever before. And if you can survive living with an adoptee who's also like you, I think that brings hope. And so, but again, everyone has their story, and yeah, it brings you together. And yeah, I mean, but don't let it define you. You're still your own person. You still can be
Whoever you want to be.
Yep, you can be whoever you want to be and be like everyone else. You're not different. I mean, you are different in some ways, but don't let it define you. And
it's not your whole life. It was just part of your life.
That's my message. And now you can.
What I'd say is that, like, basically you should start the conversation about being adopted to other people, even if you're not an adoptee, and just start a conversation, because it is very interesting to learn about a story that it's very interesting. And I really bring hope, and you should just let it all out rather than hold it all in, is what I say.
Brilliant. You're an inspirational couple. And if you're a Russian adoptee, check out the Russian Adoptee website and the socials. They'll be in the show notes underneath this episode. So thanks a lot, guys. This has been the first. I don't know. Will we have another
100%. We're gonna have episode 2. It's a new series now. So
yeah. So we'll have maybe after the marriage. Maybe you can come on and tell us how that's gone. And anyway, right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening. And thank you, listeners. This has been fun. See you all soon.
Thank you.